Hi folks, how is everybody? Hope you're doing well. It's Wednesday afternoon here. Wherever you are in the world, hope everything is good. So our live stream today, we're talking about the rise of grid interactive buildings, and it's a fascinating topic. So I'll be very happy to take you through it. This is what we're going to be talking about today. If we can pull up that slide, please, with the notes. So while we're just waiting for others to join, this is like the contents of what we're talking about today. So first of all, we'll give an introduction and also like a scope of kind of the technology that we're going to talk about. Second, what are grid interactive efficient buildings? We're going to go through that and show an infographic which kind of explains in much more detail about the different types of technology. Then number 3, we're going to talk about some of the research that we've done and looked at how we've sized the market for these technologies. 4 and 5, then we're going to talk about some specific aspects of the market. Yes, absolutely. Before anyone asks, you can ask questions. I've left some time at the end. Also, I think some colleagues are in the chat as well. So if you do have some specific questions that I can't answer, then feel free to put them in there. We'll either answer them now or we'll come back to you at some point and make sure you get an answer to your question. We're also recording the session. So I'm pretty sure it basically goes up on YouTube and you'll be able to share it with colleagues on there. Also, it's going to go up on LinkedIn as well. So you'll get a link for that and you can share it with your colleagues. Or if you specifically want, I can get in contact with us and we can send you a link. So I hope we've got everyone who's going to join has joined now. This is the research report that we've produced recently. And this is where the data that I'm going to be discussing from today, where it comes from. And this is actually like the second in a 2-part series that we've done this year, specifically on energy management software, and also specifically in commercial buildings. Now, specifically, we're talking about the role of software in transforming commercial buildings into active and responsive participants in the energy grid. So it's a real fundamental transition in buildings. We're moving from energy consumers into prosumers, right? Into actually, entities that not just create energy, but also use it and sell it back to the grid. As with all research, of course, definitions and scope are important. And our work has on this kind of energy management software piece is, as I said, around commercial buildings. That's number 1. The analysis covers software technologies that enable buildings to both optimize energy use, contribute to grid stability, and also participate in these demand-side management programs. And we've broken this down into 4 specific application areas, which you can see on the screen now. So first one, demand response and virtual power plants. These allow buildings to reduce or shift energy consumption in response to grid signals. So that helps to stabilize demand during peak times. Second, distributed energy resource management systems and microgrids. And these enable buildings to manage and control on-site renewable generation and storage. Third, distributed energy storage software, and these maximize the efficiency and lifespan of on-site batteries. So they allow buildings to store energy for use, for example, during peak demand or even grid outages. And then finally, EV charging and flexible load management. And these enable the high energy demands of EVs and EV charging. They can distribute loads intelligently to avoid grid strain. And even in some cases, and I think hopefully going forward, we're going to see EVs as kind of mobile energy storage units. Areas that are out of scope of this specific report that we've done are, for example, HVAC optimization software. That's what we covered in the previous report. Also things like thermal energy storage solutions, energy trading platforms, energy reporting tools. That type of software is not included in the numbers today. Okay. So, often we start with the why. Why is this technology necessary? And I think I've put 3 of the kind of most important key points here. There are several, but these, as I see them, are the 3 main things. First, we're witnessing, a big shift in global energy markets. Recent geopolitical events, for example, the war in Ukraine, have created significant price volatility. And even in some regions, we've seen energy costs spike by up to 400%. Second, as I kind of alluded to earlier, we're seeing this fundamental shift in how commercial buildings are interacting with the power grid. So buildings are no longer just this kind of passive energy consumer, they're becoming prosumers. So through these kind of on-site renewable installations, I'm thinking rooftop solar, for example, buildings are not just consuming energy, they're producing energy. And there's a lot of things that are driving that market forward. Okay, that's kind of like the drivers, like in terms of things holding the market back. Our existing grid infrastructure has not been designed for this kind of level of complexity. And so we're facing, technical hurdles with system interoperability, and there's also, significant upfront costs to this kind of stuff. And then coupled with that, like in a lot of areas of technology, we're seeing a growing skills gap in the workforce. But of course, like with most areas of this business, I think, these aren't insurmountable challenges. They're barriers that can be overcome. So GEBs, grid interactive buildings, they represent, I think, like both a necessity and also an opportunity as we move towards, a more sustainable and resilient renewable energy future. So I said we'd look a little bit more into the technology. So what we did here, part of our research, we produced this infographic, which goes some way to showing how the technology makes this kind of the grid interactive building possible. So if you look at the start, so if you look at the top, so we're focused on commercial facilities, things like offices, retail, data centers, hospitality buildings. And, a lot of those, especially newer ones, have some advanced capabilities for sensing the environment, monitoring occupancy, CO2 levels, temperature, humidity, etc., all allowing for control of the environment. Then as we move down, what we see is the backbone of these smart buildings being the energy infrastructure. And this is centered around two core components. So the first on the left, as you look at it, the building management system. This acts as kind of like the central nervous system, controlling critical functions like the HVAC and lighting. And then on the right, we see distributed energy resources. So you can think of this as the building's power plant, right? The actual producing energy. And this can incorporate anything from rooftop solar to battery storage to EV charging. Then as we move down, we see the technology stack, right? So this is where, most of what we're talking about today is. We're looking at really 4 layers here, which transforms the raw data into the actionable intelligence. So on the left there, data integration. That's pulling information from sensors and external sources. Then we have to have some analytics and optimization layer. Increasingly, that's going to use AI to make sense of like this vast amount of data. Then there's the energy management and control layer, and that's going to take these insights and translate them into actual building operations. And then finally, the grid services layer, which connects the building to the broader energy marketplace. So finally then, we see below that the sort of external, if we look on the left, we see the external outputs, right? So that's the real-time data that is influencing the building operations. So things like weather, of course, that helps to predict solar generation, also heating and cooling needs inside the building. Also grid status and energy market pricing, that can inform decisions about when to use, to store, or to sell power. And carbon intensity data, which helps building optimize their operations for sustainability. Then finally, at the bottom, we see the grid stakeholders, right? So the utilities, the demand response aggregators, the virtual power plant operators, who are there creating the marketplace for energy services. So this kind of like entire system represents that fundamental shift that I've talked about in how we actually can think about commercial buildings. They're becoming this more active participant in energy infrastructure. And it's certainly going to help to create a more resilient and sustainable grid, especially when we're bringing all of these renewable sources on. I think like the real power of a system like this as well is its ability to balance multiple objectives. So I think things like occupancy comfort, energy efficiency, cost optimization, and also grid sustainability stability, all at the same time. So as I said, like part of our research is to look at what we believe the market is worth for this type of technology. We predict like there's going to be substantial growth, and for GEBs software, grid interactive building software, we think that the market will nearly double to about 4.8 billion by 2029. What's particularly interesting is the momentum that we're seeing in EV charging and flexible load management solutions. And we predicted actually this is the part of the market that is growing at a slightly bigger rate than the others. And actually, I'm going to discuss EV charging in a slide in a couple of slides' time. Looking at like the regional breakdown, the Americas currently hold the biggest share of the market at around 34%. Asia Pacific is certainly coming on track to rival the Americas by 2029. We're seeing a lot of investment in renewable energy there, and also a lot of rapidly developing urban environments. This growth is being propelled by three big factors. First, regulatory pressure for building efficiency. Also, rising energy costs, which I mentioned before, and they're definitely pushing building owners and operators to think much more about better management solutions. And also a growing focus on grid resilience. And I think combined with the advances in technology, specifically around AI that we're making, that's really creating a good environment for this being an expanding market. So the takeaway here is not that we're just seeing growth, but we are really seeing a transformation in how buildings interact with the power grid, and this is creating a lot of opportunities across different regions and different technology sectors. So just one slide about sort of like the competitive market. As part of our market sizing, creating the model that we based our data on, we looked at as many companies as we could across the globe. We tracked around 130 companies, ranging from established building automation players, utility companies, startups, and also specialized software providers. And within the report, we detail a few of those as well. We go into more detail. And in terms of like how they're distributed regionally, North America is definitely leading there. It counts for around 50% of those companies that we identified. And I think a lot of that comes from the substantial investments that have been made in energy efficiency. Like Americas are just a good environment for raising capital with that in mind. So I said I wanted to talk about EV charging, and one of the key learnings from our report is that it's definitely becoming a critical element of grid interactive buildings. I think the first thing we're seeing, in real adoption of electric vehicles, there's some research out there, not from us, from a research institute, that looks at EV fleet sizes and has estimated that they're doubling approximately every 15 months. And this is kind of like this level of growth is like outpacing what people have previously forecast. So it is creating a lot of demand for charging infrastructure, not just, out in car parks and stuff, but also, connected to commercial buildings. Think like retail, malls, think offices. So this is going to present a significant challenge. Our research shows that even like a medium-sized building, one with just say 20 charging points, could see its peak energy demand double or triple if it's not managed properly. So this really increases the need for better intelligent, integration. So by connecting EV charging systems with building management systems, we can do this sort of dynamically adjust charging rates and align energy use with off-peak periods. So this not only prevents excessive demand, but also enables participation in demand response programs. And also, like probably even more exciting than that is this emergence of vehicle-to-grid technology, or as it's been called, V2G. So this can transform, for example, a parking facility with charging stations into some much more dynamic energy storage network. So think, for example, of a commercial parking lot with 50 vehicles that could be providing, up to 5 megawatts of flexible storage capacity. So that's enough to significantly impact building energy management and grid stability. And these developments aren't just about managing costs, they're about positioning commercial buildings as, key players in the energy system, and capable, as I said, like not just of consuming, but also providing the power that's needed by the grid. So if you're interested in finding out more, this is the report I mentioned. If you scan that QR code, you can go to the webpage, you can read more about it. And also, if you're interested, you can subscribe to Memory. You can do that either as an individual. So that's, for people who just observers of the market on an individual basis and they want to be informed of what's going on. We write a lot of articles about important developments in smart buildings. Or, of course, if you're an enterprise, we have a premium subscription. So that's for companies who need right information at the right time to make their strategic decisions. We also have advisory services. So if you're interested in market intelligence, if you want some specific market sizing or forecasting work done, you can contact us, or things like M&A, target screening, investment opportunity analysis. We also do that. And finally, AI development services. So we have developed our own AI chatbot. Behind that is our own vector database with all of the information that we've produced. And you can license that data from us if you want for your own internal knowledge requirements. And that's what our chatbot looks like. So you can interrogate it with different questions. But of course, if you've created your own internal knowledge base using LLMs, you can plug our vector database or API into that. All right. Look, thanks for listening, everybody. I appreciate your time. So yeah, let's see if there's some questions come in. Give me 1 second. One second. Can we bring the slide back? Hang on. I'll do it. All right, let me just get to the event page. Okay. James, what are the gaps in technology services or infrastructure? Let me turn that down. That currently limit the growth of building attached EV networks. Well, I think there's a lot. I think there's so much opportunity out there for EV charging, and I think we're still at a very, in terms of the building aspect of it, we're still at a very, very low level of integration. I mentioned about integrating with building management systems. We talk more about that in the report, but there isn't a great deal of it going on at the moment. So I think there are definitely gaps in technology about that integration piece. Thanks, Trevor. Another one here. What technology do you see as the main driver for grid interactive buildings? There are a lot. In terms of technology, I think the one that is most prescient is the EV charging piece. Although we are behind on it, in terms of the total market, I think that there is a huge opportunity there because of the increased adoption of of electric vehicles. I think that's gone faster than a lot of people had predicted, and we need to catch up with charging. So I'm seeing it more here where I live. A lot more charging infrastructure going into places like retail malls, but that really needs to be managed. And if we really want to be as smart as we can and move towards that kind of vehicle to grid piece, then we need the building needs to manage that, peak load demand of connecting all of these cars, and they're all sucking the electricity out of the building. That really needs to be managed. There's a massive opportunity there. Another question here: are there specific EU regulations, directives that are impacting the market? Yes, absolutely. I think one of the biggest ones that we've seen in the last few years is around, I mentioned one of the key macro drivers being about this increase in energy volatility, especially in Europe. And in response to that, the EU produced this Repower EU legislation directive, and that's definitely about bringing different types of energy into the mix. So very interested in putting rooftop solar on commercial buildings, things like that. That's going to have a big part to play, I think, in Europe. So keep an eye on that. Yes, comment here for Trevor from my colleague. So that will give you a better idea there. I don't know if there are any more questions. If there are, we've got a couple of minutes. Let me check YouTube as well. Okay. I haven't seen anything else. If you do have questions, then you can still put them in the comments section on LinkedIn after we've finished the recording. Feel free to do that, or of course you can email us if you want to do it the old way. support@memory.com. Happy to engage. Happy to talk more about this subject if anyone wants to. So. Yeah, thanks for listening today. We'll be back soon with some more live events, some streams, and also podcasts as well. If you're interested in, a bit more of a different take on technology and buildings, you can listen to the podcast. You can find that on YouTube. Just search for the Smart Building series. So yeah, that's it from me. Thanks very much. Oh, 1 second before we go. Where was that? Oh, okay, no. It's a reply to Owen there, so we'll leave that. Sorry. Thanks. Bye for now.